Good evening, everyone. My name's James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK, and you have probably not heard of me. And I welcome you to this, the No Fuss Muss YouTube channel, for tonight's live chat with a man who can be described as, well, let's put it real simple. Let's go list form. It's actors, it's actor headshots, it's dancers, it's performance work, it's experimented, elongated exposure, it's collages, compilations, and composites. It's the love of authentic analog in-camera artistry. It's the Brisbane backlighting, bounce flash bracketing, burst mode, and bokeh inspired icon that is Kris Anderson. Welcome to the stage, Kris.
Oh my gosh, there's so much alliteration. My brain is bleeding. So amazing.
Not a good start.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, and welcome to everyone who's joining us live around the world. If you are joining us from around the world, doesn't matter where it is, put where you're joining us from in the comments. And if you have a question for Kris at any point during this live chat, you can drop it in the chat box and we will ask Kris the question. Kris has joined us. We're going to share with you some of his work before we dive into his 3 favorite images, and we'll discuss exactly how that's going to work in a moment. But we've had a look. You can find Kris's work online, actually. If you go to Images by Anderson on Instagram, is probably the first place you want to go and check Kris's work out. And Kris is an advocate of the performance arts. Talk to me a little bit about that, Kris. Talk to me a little bit about your background, where you're from, and why you love photography so much.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Canadian. I've got an American accent. I live in Brisbane. It's super complicated. I've been a musician forever, and so I've done like music for bands and music for theater and stuff like that. And then kind of when photography became a thing for me, I was in that performing arts space and started photographing performers. And then I went, oh, I'm a photographer. I better shoot everything. So I moved on to shooting, weddings and paint cans and families in the park with white T-shirts and jeans and stuff like that. And then eventually went, oh, I don't love that. I love shooting performers. So maybe I should just do that. So I kind of focused on doing just performing arts. And it's excellent because the people that you get to work with they're super fun. They're energetic. They've got great ideas. They're open to great ideas. And yeah, it's the best.
It's different, isn't it? I liken it. I mean, we have a similar thing where between you and I, where you're photographing a lot of performance arts. I photograph a lot of professional wrestlers on my channel. You almost overcome one of the boundaries to great portraiture, which is the ability to perform, to show out, and to give off expression. As we see a little bit of cat in the hat goodness happening. This is all the sort of stuff you can see on Images by Anderson on Instagram. It's really, really creative content. Can I ask a more practical question? Who creates these reels for you?
This one, not me. This was actually Maddie, who was my client. And this is the coolest portrait product. I call this wildcard portraits, where people show up wearing whatever they want. They don't tell me ahead of time what they're going to do. And then I've got 45 minutes to do a creative shoot. I choose the images and edit them however I like and deliver them. So Maddie's a bit of a legend. She did her own behind the scenes video, but mostly it's me doing my own reels and stuff like that. So
and we can see here the more standard headshots that you produce as well. So you're producing everything for this industry, the full service, really.
Yeah.
Is that, how long have you been doing that from? Because you say that you had a journey from sort of like by your own definition, standard photographer to something that's a bit more elevated. Talk to us about that journey.
Yeah. So craft. I guess I've probably been, people say professional means different things. I've been taking people's money to do this for about 15 years. And I think probably you're not supposed to do fun stuff with your job, right? Like performance is so much fun. It took me a while to have the guts to go, this is what I can focus on. And I think part of it's realizing you've only got so much time, right? Like you're only on the planet for so long, you've got so many hours in the day. Why am I photographing things I don't love as much as this? And that's kind of where, that's why I decided to niche down into the stuff I love, which I hope everyone can do when if they figure that out.
And going back even further from that, friend of the show, Chris Mould there. Hi, Chris. Thank you very much for joining us. He's from the Made in Portsmouth podcast series. There's your plug. You've had it. He wants to know can you remember the moment you first picked up a camera? And what was that light bulb moment like when you did, sort of, because I think as soon as you pick up a camera, you've made that commitment to becoming a photographer. So talk to us about that.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, I can remember using a camera when I was younger. And I think I liked using cameras because I can't draw. Like I just cannot, these fingers do not draw lines and I can't make pictures happen. And in a camera, I have more ability to do that, right? So there was like, I started taking pictures more when we had kids, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And that's kind of where actually the light bulb moment, I promise, if we'll come back to that because that's one of the things I want to talk about a little later.
No spoilers. We're going to have that light bulb moment in the moment. Now, Kris first came to my attention. The first image I saw of yours, I think I judged for an international competition, and it was this image here, and it stood out from everything else that I saw. Because I can't do composites. Like, I think it's important as a photographer to understand where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and not obsess so much about the weaknesses and trying to tighten those up, but really, really refine those strengths. And I certainly can't. Yeah, indeed. That is the reaction that you should be giving when you see this image. There it is right there. That is exactly the perfect reaction. Can you just talk to us about, don't go too deep onto this one, but just talk to me about the actual hours that have been put into creating this image, and how long it took you in terms of the process?
Man, I think I say this is 100 hours. My wife says it's like 10,000 hours. I do not want to work out my hourly rate for this image because it will be really terrible. This was actually, I think I was a lot better at Photoshop when this was done than when I started. Like, learning, I think I was okay at composites, and then spending the time on this helped me, not just get better at composites, but learn how to shoot better for composites. So yeah, I've put so much time into this, and multiple versions exist out in the world as I was learning what I was doing. So I think probably this was 6 months from the start of doing the composites to the end as well.
This is a half-year project to get to this one image.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I put it away for about 6 or 7 years, and then I opened it up again, and I went, the light's falling on the water the wrong way. Oh man. And I redid the water.
Of course.
Because, obviously. No, that's probably one of the more well-known ones of mine, and I really like it, and I like that it's got a story in it. I like that it's epic, but I learned a ton from it as well. So yeah, it's I think I like to throw myself in the deep end with projects. I'm a little easily bored. So some of that variety that you saw on the, socials and whatever, a lot of that's from, I like doing different stuff. Like that was hardcore composite work. And then people started going, oh, you're a composite photographer. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to do some in-camera stuff. It's like trying different stuff is fun.
It's funny you say that, because that's the next image I was going to bring up, because the images I really, really admire of yours, and there's so many that I really, really admire, and I've had the privilege of seeing them in print as well, in terms of unique ideas. I love seeing, if I can make it slight tangent, because we are here to talk about your role at the Society's convention coming up at the beginning of January next year here in London. What I love about the work that you produce when you produce it for competition is that it isn't defined by category. So therefore it stands out. And I always think when you're producing images for competition that are different and that stand out, you're already in the hunt. You're already at the races, and you're not competing like against like. And I think this next image I'm going to bring up brings it back down to the fact that we've literally just seen an image that, by your own admission, took at least half a year to produce. And this next image is very analog, very in camera, and very the stuff that I'm passionate about, which is capturing and drawing with light, using light and the lens and the body as a tool to create artistry within a single frame. Can you speak to us about this image and this style that you've developed?
Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time now doing kind of this long exposure photography with dancers, and I get to work with dancers, and photograph them, and I really like making a crisp, accurate, beautiful, colorful dance image. But you kind of miss a lot of the motion, right? Like you miss the dynamism of moving through it. So I started experimenting with, which I think a lot of people go through. Like it's not long exposure dance isn't a new style, but kind of working out, right, well, how can I light this in a way that's interesting? How can I control the movement? How can I work with the dancer to look at what's working and then iterate and collaborate on this stuff? So this is actually shot at Kelly Brown's old studio in Brisbane, and so there's theater curtains behind, which is kind of nice. I'd say this is probably a 2-second exposure with one of the dancers that I work with all the time, who now lives in Germany. Hi, Isla, if you're watching. So it's part of a longer set of images, but this is one of the ones that I've printed this big. I've got this as probably like a 2-meter high canvas in a frame. It's a gorgeous image when it's printed big, and it's pretty much in camera. There's a little bit of post to tidy a few things up and get a little bit more of the feel in it, but I haven't, all those lines, they were there in the shot, which I love. Even the kind of those bokeh circles that are there were unintentional. And then it's like, oh no, oh wait, oh yes, this is good. So there's some experimental failure in this that I really like.
There's another cheat code for your competition entries. Competition judges love shapes, particularly circles and triangles. And you alluded to it as well, so I don't have to awkwardly allude to it. Kelly Brown is the next guest on this show. She'll be coming up in 2 weeks' time. Next week, for you wrestling fans, I'll be talking to Dalton Castle in a pre-recorded interview. I say pre-recorded. I pre-recorded it 2 years ago and just never uploaded it. Dalton Castle's going to be coming next week because I'm away. And then I'll be speaking to Kelly Brown live in 2 weeks' time. Enjoy it. But for the moment, Brisbane photographer Kris Anderson is going to be discussing his 3 favorite images. This is how it's going to work. We discuss an image from all of photography, the entire world of photography. Could be a world famous photographer, could be any photograph in the world of photography that's your favorite image. The second image is an image from your own professional collection, an image that you've taken professionally as a photographer that you're really, really proud of and that you love. And then the last image is just a personal image. Could have been shot on your phone. Typically, people share images, personal images from their family life, from their life with friends, or just from moments that have happened in their life. And we get to dive deep into those stories. And we are going to start off with that personal picture. Kris, talk to us about your first selection here.
All right, so this is 19 years old, this shot, and I said before. So Kris, well, you asked the question, what was the light bulb moment? And this was probably it. Like I used to use my crappy little camera to take family photos, and I would at least be smart enough to know, right, well, I want to have faces large in the frame. Like that was what I was doing. And I can remember going to the beach with, this is my son Bailey, he was 4 years old, and it was like an overcast day, like let's go down to the beach and take some photos. Yeah. And I remember putting him front and center and like dead center bullseye composition, because that's all my brain knew how to do. And at the last second in one of them, in this one, he like shifts to the side because he's a fidgety kid on the beach, right? And at the time I remember going, oh, he's ruined the photo, God. And then like looking at it later, and this is objectively not a good photograph, right? It's out of focus, the horizon's not really level. There's a lot about this that is not amazing. His smile and his face is amazing to me, and that's him. And he doesn't, like, he's much older now, still same face, but for me, the kicker with this was, oh, he's off to the side. This works better. Why does this work better? There's a reason for this. Oh, there's like compositional reasons in this. There's choices you can make when you're shooting something that will be more or less effective. And this is the photo that kind of got me thinking about how all this stuff works. And maybe there's rules behind it. I'm an engineer and a scientist, and so mathematics is kind of part of my brain, and rules are part of my brain. So like I said rules, that's a terrible thing to say, but like rule of thirds or whatever. Suddenly there were things I could try, and there was like, okay, there are structures I could lean on to make better photographs. This was the light bulb moment for me. So this is what started me kind of experimenting and thinking about. I say effective photographs. Like this is a more effective photograph than the other ones I was taking. Why is that? And so that journey was really fun for me.
The engineer in Kris Anderson, the pessimist will look at the half full glass and say that it's half empty. The engineer will look at the same glass and say that glass is twice as big as it needs to be. Kris points out that this is just raw, happy, and pure, and I couldn't agree more. It's just it's one of those honest photographs that gives an honest, believable expression that is utterly, timeless, and something that you understand on a slightly deeper level as a parent. And the fact that, I worked for high street studios where we would chase this style of portrait in like 2005, 2006, because it was all the rage to crop the kid off to the right-hand side and leave white space. And then understanding that dynamic of the rule of thirds, to understand that dynamic of how we read in the Western world, at least from left to right. So this left to right reading of this image from the negative space on the left hand side to our destination, to the end point, to the subject on the right hand side works. And then it can work the other way with different styles of portraits if the negative space is on the other side, telling us a completely different story. Is this image up in your home anywhere? Have you printed it?
It is. I've got an image of this. I've got an image of my daughter, and I've got an image of my wife and son and daughter, and they're all like a little frame. So walk past it every day. That's such a good question.
This is what you should do, internet. You should print things out, right? Because there's a few reasons for this. Firstly, a photograph isn't a photograph until it's printed. It's just a collection of data on your phone. Second reason is we take hundreds of photographs, thousands of photographs every year on our phones that we love and we fall in love with. There is no guarantee that we will be able to find them in the cloud in 20 years' time. And there's no guarantee that your SIM card's going to work in 20 years' time. And my phone that I just upgraded from last year won't even charge anymore. So I can't even get into the internal data on that thing that I don't use anymore. So every year, what he's agreeing with me, every year, what we do as a family is my wife and I will go through our phones and we will take 100 pictures off of my phone and 100 pictures off of her phone, and we'll send them off to a printers, and we'll get 200 pictures back for about 20 quid because they're only small, and they go in a box. And they've gone in a box ever since we've had kids, which means right now we're sitting on about 2,500 genuine, tangible, real photos that we only look at once a year. But when we do look at them once a year, they bring back memories that we otherwise would have forgot. And if people watching this could only do one thing, in photography, irrespective of their level, given the fact that Kris is a photographer here with multiple awards and multiple accolades to his name, and has just organized an amazing competition for the whole of Australia to enjoy an international award spectacle for, one of his 3 favorite images is one of those style of images from a time when you're not the photographer that you are today, but it's still so special to you that you picked it as one of your 3. And I think that's quite a powerful thing to harness.
It's funny listening to you talk about it with your judgy pants on as well, because and because I know your judging voice really well and the way you analyze a photo, and I'm looking at that going, man, the focus is on his hair. Like there's a part of me that looks at it and goes, opportunity lost. When a judge says there's a missed opportunity here, it's like, no, that's my least favorite thing. But that's not what I see when I look at this at all, right? So
no parent is looking at that photo and going, God, that horizon line isn't straight. Not a single one, mate. Right. Image number 2 is from the world of photography, not from your professional portfolio. So we are going to take you to the world of Damien Bauman. You're going to talk to us about this. I don't know anything about this, but this is the image you've chosen from the world of photography. Talk to us about this image here.
Yeah, so this is Damien's work. Damien's an Australian photographer, and I met this image judging it. Which, like, for anyone that's been in that photography judging space, is a pretty intense way to meet an image, right? Like it's stuck up in front of you. You got to analyze it really quickly and try and deduce the meaning behind it. And one of the reasons that I chose this is because there's an economy of communication in this that I think is really beautiful. And thinking about how a photographer uses information to tell a story and trying to project what is, I think, a really complicated story with only a handful of elements. So I mean, like, as a judge and as a visual communicator, I think this is really important to me. But also, just the story that he's telling is, to me, pretty remarkable. And you're on the hey James in your judgy pants. Now, while I've been yapping, you've been looking at this for a minute. So why don't you tell me what this means to you? To me,
there's clearly, sometimes when images come, why are you putting me on the spot on my own show?
because
you're not in control of this. You're not in control of it, me. It's clearly when images come up like this, you can clearly tell that there's a powerful narrative. Some images are done with such intent, right, that you want to absorb them and hope that you don't miss anything. There's clearly some sort of reflection in terms of time passing, would be my initial response to seeing this image for the brief time that I've seen it. And I deliberately did not communicate anything from you because I wanted to learn from it rather than impart my ham-fisted style of assessment of it. But in terms of having that reflection, and we've alluded previously on the show literally 10 minutes ago to how strong shapes are in images, and how the circle behind, you know, you may look at it and go, oh, that's some sort of moon shape, some sort of lunar object shape. I think it looks like a clock. It looks like time passing. You've got little leaves and little items here falling off of it. You've got the distressed background as well in terms of the texture all leading into it. And ultimately, when you then draw back into it and have a look at the portrait itself, it's a really strong pose. It's a really strong, powerful expression, and it's been really, really well lit and well handled. It's clearly the center of attention, with very subtle attention to detail behind to draw your eye and beg that narrative almost into the picture, which I really, really enjoy as well. But why don't you put a bit of sizzle on the steak and talk to us a little bit more deeply about that?
All that stuff you said, totally agree. And the strength, I think, is really important. Where this kind of really sucked me in. And I think partially because this was close to stuff that was happening with my family personally at the time, is I see this story of someone going through chemotherapy. And they've kind of gone from, you know, the historical version of themselves that had hair, and the current version, not so much. And this, I don't know if you've seen, there's photographs of people when like a nuclear bomb's gone off and like their shadow has been burned into the wall, and it's the most horrifying thing. And that's what this reminded me of, is like, you know, she's been subjected to radiation, and this is the shadow of who she used to be. And there's kind of this idea that you know, these leaves are falling and they're green at the top, sort of top left, you know, reading left to right, top to bottom, they're green at the top left, and kind of all the saturation's taken out of them. They're dead in the bottom right as they're falling. So there's something going on around, you know, the removal of life and the removal of vitality. So like, I see it as a person who's gone through this cancer journey, and they're not the same person they used to be, but they're still really strong. Like there's the expression of, like, there's a slumping in the way that she's formed, but her face is still strong and her face is still beautiful. So there's so much, like, and it's funny because I haven't looked at this image for a while. I'm looking at it again now, and I'm seeing things I hadn't seen before. So I can remember getting really passionate about this on a panel, and like talking about it a lot, and kind of what I saw and what it meant to me. And, you know, you hear different judges coming up with different interpretations, and that's excellent. But coming back to like, why is this on my list? Because there's hardly anything in this image, right? There's only a handful of elements that have each been treated really nicely. And the level of communication here is massive. Communication, you know, narratively and emotionally. And to me, this is just one of those really good examples of an image that teaches me how to communicate. And could you imagine making this and removing elements to get it to where it is now? You know, like,
right.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Everything that's in there has a purpose. And then you see images like this and you go, right, because this has been done with such expertise, everything that's in here belongs here. What did they mean by this? You know, the reason this is in here is this photo has been educational for me, as well as loving it. It's taught me a lot about reading images, and hopefully taught me about making them too.
Hard agree. When you first start photography, and particularly digital photography, where, I mean, I was introduced to Photoshop in around about 2003. So you knew you could liquefy and draw over images and take things off and do things with things. So you just did that. And the whole, we used to call it when Photoshop attacks. And just because you can doesn't necessarily mean that you should. And we see it time and time again, without wishing to make this the big competition podcast, but like, we see it time and time again in competition that the simplest images work out really well, and that photographers at the start of their journey of trying to be creative and get recognition for their creativity fall down because they try to overcomplicate. They think, if I make the most complicated image and have the most complicated series of elements within it, the judges will recognize that. Where actually what judges really, really gravitate towards is simplicity, and stories that don't necessarily hammer home messages with a sledgehammer. Stories that allow you to take one step into the water and then maybe a couple more steps in, and then start to draw your own conclusions from it, which I think this is a really, like, from the little salt and pepper you've put on this has allowed me to walk with you into that. And that's what an effective judging panel should be able to do. An effective judging panel is not trying to belittle images. They're not trying to put themselves over. They're trying to speak to images in the most positive way. And then if they see something that they want other people to come on the journey with them, then they want to help them make those steps towards a conclusion where everyone has a better appreciation of someone's artistry, really. That's what I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of people think judging is about taking images down, and it's not. We want the best result for images, and I think that discussion that we have sometimes, it's so wonderful to be in a team and everyone sees something a bit differently, and you chat about it, and you've all got a better understanding of the image now. So yeah, this is one of those.
I haven't put forward a competition image in about a year because I've just done a lot of judging and I don't like conflicts of interest. But like when I was last year, I think I was only really submitting really simple ideas. I wasn't getting het up with anything too complicated because I recognized that the simple ideas are the most effective. But that's a beautiful image, and thank you so much for sharing it. It's a really, really powerful, and I hope people watching this can appreciate the little bit of background and what Kris has seen in that image to sort of take us a few short steps along with him to appreciating that. Well, with all this in mind, you can go to my store, portraitofarrestor.com/store. We have got a sale on at the moment. I've gone through my warehouse, all my prints. I've got signed prints. I'm raising money for Leukemia Care because I'm running the Great South Run for Leukemia Care. We're raising money for them in memory of one of our friends, James Castle, who's a regular at the studio. Great guy, full of character. We've got, if you're a wrestling fan, we've got signed prints. If you would normally, as a friend of mine, hear that I'm doing a run for Leukemia Care and donate a £5 to a Just Giving page, like, do that if you want. But why not buy a £5 print from my store? Because that's how cheap some of them are. And I'll send you a print, and I'm just going to give the £5 to Leukemia Care anyway. So we both get something. So if you'd like to do that, portraitofarrestor.com/store, loads of limited edition stuff off of my new Canon printer, which I love. I print them all hand printed on my Canon printer, which I use because I've been using Canon products for 21 years. Clip that. Finally, Kris, we come on to your final image. I say these things because I believe them, not because I was paid to say them. Kris, your final image is here, and we're going to bring it up, and it's an image from your own professional portfolio here. This is an image that I'm sure a lot of people watching this are going to instantly understand and recognize. Kris, talk to us about this image from your personal collection.
So you mentioned before images that hit you over the head with the sledgehammer. I think this is one of those, actually. I think this is, it doesn't leave you a whole lot of wiggle room to figure stuff out. I'm sure a lot of parents go through this, but I can remember sitting on the couch, like sitting on my phone while the kids were young, and being just entranced by doom scrolling when I could have been paying attention to, I don't know, them growing up and having a life and learning and becoming humans and adults. And I felt really guilty. Like there's this massive, what have I been doing wasting my time on my phone? I've made a couple images like this as well. So I think I've maybe not learned my lesson properly. But the idea that we can sink so much time into, a device that doesn't care about us and miss something important this felt like an important image to capture. So in my head, it was in a whole bunch of different ways before it was built, but it ended up being this 4-panel thing. It was actually meant to be 3 panels. It's kind of interesting. So these are actually, you know what, the guy in this photo who's holding the phone, his name's Stefan. He's a performer friend of mine, and he taught me studio lighting. So it's really nice to put some people and have Stefan's whole family in this shot as well. And then make him sit still for half an hour and pour water all over him. Sorry, Stefan, still appreciate it. I was on the way to shooting this, and this is all done really, really simply at a local park, camera on a tripod, off-camera lighting. Didn't take too long, but my daughter was with me, and we were in the car driving there, and she was my assistant. And we realized on the car on the way there needed to be a 4th frame. There needed to be where's my family gone? And so we kind of we rewrote it while we were spending 20 minutes driving to the location. But I think for me, the reason this is on here, it's not just that it's kind of well known. And Heidi, hello, I see Heidi in the comments. So thanks, Heidi. Another person with complicated lineage living around the world. One of the reasons that this lands with me so much is it lands with other people. So there's very few pieces of work that I've done where it kind of universally grabs someone and they understand it and they go, oh, I know what you mean. When this was the first time this was judged, and I know a lot of stuff comes back to judging. That's a lot of where like my new work will appear for the first time. The judge that challenged it, who was a mutual friend of ours, James, we mentioned him earlier before we went live. The person who challenged this cried when he was challenging this, and he got partway through his explanation, and the panel chair kind of started wrapping up for him. He was like, no, I can do this. And he continued on with it. And the whole room was crying, which was, as a photographer, it's like, yes, I've made people sad. No, I've made people feel something. And that's why it's in the list for me. It's like, this one hits home with people, and so many people get it and they understand it immediately. And, maybe it makes them think about it, and maybe it makes them change. And I've had a few friends who have said, yeah, this is in their head when they're doom scrolling, when they've got young kids. So that's why it's on the list, and I know it's kind of a downer of a message. It feels bit sad, but,
So to be clear, to be clear, viewer at home, we discussed what order we're going to put these up, and I never like to finish on a downer. And Kris said, "Trust me, I can turn it round." And he's just he's just said that he hasn't done that. But I think if you've managed to change someone's life with a photograph, that's about the most powerful thing you can do. I mean, change the life for the better. And what I was going to say as well, when I first saw it come up, oh, me, talk about me. But what I was going to say when it first came up is, I think an inexperienced photographer would come up with this idea and finish at frame 3, because I think the kicker comes in frame 4. And that's where the story has the twist. And I think that's what really gives it that emotional punch is that 4th frame. So I'm really glad that you put it on there. Heidi says that it's her favorite image of yours. She also says that she first saw this in person at the Head On Photo Festival in Sydney, and she was transfixed. To see it printed is even more profound. Kris says this is a very powerful and moving to make people look up. I think about the bigger picture. That is super cool. There you go. That is your words in action. Looking at Kris's comment there, which is really, really cool. It's good to get the person's buy-in. It's also excellent that it's a cyclical moment, that the person who taught you the lighting styles that you currently employ is featured in this image. It just is a powerful image, and I understand the reasons why you chose it. And it's so interesting that you have such a breadth of work, such a dynamic range of interesting subjects, interesting people, everything from composites, to sort of in-camera effects, to these premeditated frames coming in to shot. And one of my favorite panels of yours was of the theater on the last performance, and that's on a sort of similar panel to that. Was that 20 images or 16?
I think it was 12. So
12.
Yeah, bit of backstory. There's a theater that I work with here in Brisbane, and the theater company is vacating the building that they were in, and they've been in for like 50 years. So I photographed the last production behind the scenes. So I was in the wings and dressing rooms and the bio box and all that, and kind of told the story the very last time that this theater was on stage. So it was like a 3x4 grid, reading top to bottom, left to right, with some really specifically chosen frames to grab you and rip your heart out for the first and last frames as well.
But do you, because of your background in performance, therefore, this is my point, you got this grid idea here, and it's exemplified here. Do you naturally see these ideas as stories? And sometimes, what is it that pushes you to go from a story in a single frame to creating almost a storyboard idea, like you would if you were preparing for a film?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, even when I do a single frame, there's multiple frames in it. Like I'll find ways of messing around with reality to have things happening. But there's something weird about this image, and a lot of my stuff, you'll notice, you could stage this. This looks like a theater production, and I realized, it took me ages to realize either it was a crutch or a style, but like it's framed like this. The action is, it's not too far in the distance. It's lit a certain way. This could be on stage. A whole lot of my stuff could be on stage. I think I've, spent so much time photographing stage productions and thinking about narrative and thinking about lighting, all that stuff, that it's kind of imprinted on how I make images like this. So to me, the storytelling is really important. And whatever minimal clues you need to set someone off on the story is huge. I don't always do the multiple frame thing. Like, it's a good technique, and sometimes it's needed, because I don't know if I could have told like that story with the phone. I don't know if I could have told that the same way in one frame as effectively. So that's different tools for different purposes, right? Like, that's what you needed to tell that story.
Yeah, I think so. I think, alluding to the theatre, that was Heidi's second favourite of yours as a former theatre girl. That one hit hard, and I think that's anyone who puts their passion into passion projects like that, you know, you're their guy in terms of like creating something a little different. And that's what's brilliant from you from a business perspective, is that you've created a niche for yourself within the Brisbane community, and I assume slightly further afield, although it's difficult to get further afield in Australia without having to commit a week of your life to traveling to the next town. But that's the key to your success in business and your notoriety, I would guess.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's being part of that theater industry here anyway is that was important from a, you know, I already had contacts and stuff like that, but it's nice to know that you're kind of a trusted person in the scene. Like, if there's a production that's about to go on and someone's looking at getting some images, that then, you know, yes, they need to be scroll stoppy and all that stuff, but I know what it's like to work in theater. I know what it's like to advertise shows, and what it's like to have a show where you don't get many bums in seats. It doesn't do very well, or when it does, like that's probably one of my points of difference. Doing that kind of work is, I know this is what I do. I'm a performer, so being able to turn those kind of that kind of taking a narrative and putting it into a shot that you can use for advertising, I think is something I'm never going to master it, but it's definitely something that I think I'm on the way. So that's probably my point of difference, I think.
Greetings from Germany. We've had a viewer here from Germany. Say hi to Pavel. There we go. Joining us just at the end here as we're about to wind things up. If you do have a question for Kris, then put it in the chat. We've got 5 minutes before we round things off here. Kris, what's the best musical theatre production, and why is it West Side Story?
I do like West Side Story, actually. So I'm an improviser, and I do music for improv theater. And I have done a show called Worst Side Story. It was a full-length musical, 2 45-minute halves, with the offer that came from the audience, and a completely improvised musical in front of a paying audience. So I'm going to say not West Side Story, it's Worst Side Story that is the best, but that's super obscure.
How does improvised musical theatre work?
Well, you get a bunch of performers. Did it not work? No, it totally worked. It was amazing. Right, you get a bunch of performers that, you know, they understand music and they understand singing and narrative and all that stuff. And these performers are great improv actors anyway. But there's a lot of structures in musical theater that replay, you know, show after show after show. The separated duet where the lovers are singing a song and they're together but they're apart, you know, stuff like that. We would workshop how those work, and then on the night when you're performing, well, that's just one of the tools you have in your basket that you can use, right? So but creating that stuff from scratch with no net high risk it's super fun. That's one of the great things about being an improv musician. I think it actually helps in photography too, because problem solving is as a photographer, you're a problem solver, right? Yes. Like, you'd see this all the time. It is not about aiming a camera at someone and shooting. It's about going, well, this isn't quite right yet. Let's go to fix this. Let's change this. Let's make this better. Never being embarrassed about what's going on, getting the best outcome, and using the tools that you've got. Improv is like that. So right. I'm pretty sure improv theater has taught me to be a better photographer as well.
It's a good thing. We're having a German influx here. Say hi to Jules. He's greeting us from Hamburg. Beautiful part of the world down there in Hamburg. Thank you very much indeed for your kind comment there. Problem solving. I was literally problem solving today on a commercial job, which was just a little awards presentation. They wanted everything flash lit, so it all looked, you know, beautiful with off-camera flash, but they also wanted the projection screen well lit with the person's name on in the background with their little PDF slide. So all of a sudden you're like, you know, you're balancing those things up. Kris says, what is an interesting fact that would surprise people about you, Kris?
I once upon a time collected Monopoly boards. So, and this is before they sold all the Star Trek Monopoly and all this stuff, but every city in the world well, lots of cities have their own Monopoly board with their own streets and their own currencies and all that stuff. So I would try and collect them, but not like order them online. Someone had to go and visit and buy me the Monopoly board, or I'd have to go and visit. So I've got boxes of Monopoly boards in the garage. Ironically, Monopoly sucks to play. It is no fun at all. I don't know why I chose that as a thing to collect. It's awful, and families break up because of Monopoly, but that's a weird thing. So I have a collection of Monopoly boards from around the world. My favorite one is when my sister got in some little village somewhere in Asia, and then it was in her backpack, and she was like had to canoe down rapids and stuff like that with this Monopoly board in her backpack. Thanks, Janice. Cool.
Pavel notices that problem solving is his job as an engineer, which ties into what you said earlier. Maybe you are a natural problem solver. And Lizzie Worley says hi. She's logged in, but she can't see her comments. That's the YouTube equivalent of the Zoom conversation where you're being on mute. You're still on mute, Craig. You're still on mute. I kept a Phantom Menace, Star Wars Phantom Menace Monopoly set with collector coins edition. I kept that mint in my loft when it was first released. I bought it for about £20. Checked it out on eBay, £22.99 it will sell for. There's literally billions of them. Completely pointless. And I've also got a Star Wars chess set that I kept, and I've never opened it. And then my son's really into chess, so I gave it to him. So you can have that. I've kept that in the loft as well. That's got to be worth loads. I opened up expecting it to be all pewter pieces and beautifully crafted. They are the cheapest.
That's
cheapest, like plastic, not even rubber, plastic. Like Darth Maul's lightsaber is like bent into like a crook because it's been in the box so long. Absolute waste of time. Cheers,
right,
George.
I'm never
Lucas.
taking investment ideas from you. That's clear. That's not
definitely not. No, the worst thing. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, Chris. Listen, what I've got to say to Chris
I do want to say, like, I'm going to see you in London in January. That's probably a good thing for us to talk about.
I'm snowballing it. Don't worry about it. I'm in control, Chris. Don't worry about this, mate. Okay. No one will have noticed this. Okay, fine. Here we go. Should we do that? We'll do that again.
Okay.
What you probably don't know about Chris is that he's actually doing this live from in Australia, in Brisbane. It's 4 a.m. his time. He's woken up super early to do this live. He insisted on doing it live. I said we should record it, or maybe we could record it when we meet up in London, because we're meeting up in London for the Society's convention in January. Chris, talk to us about what you're doing at the Society's in Hammersmith, London.
So I am doing, aside from some judging and some other stuff like that, I'm doing 2 classes. So I've got a master class on portrait photography, all the stuff that it's basically the stuff I wish someone had taught me when I started, all the hard-earned lessons that I've had doing portrait photography. So it's right up your alley, James. In fact, please don't attend, because you'll already know all this and you'll ask me questions that'll be really difficult. So you're not allowed to go. The last time I did a hands-on headshot session teaching at the Societies, James was in the next room also teaching a session. We both had borrowed strobes and they were on the same channel. So we were totally irritating each other. It was excellent. Anyway, so I'm doing that. And I'm doing a 4-hour super class as well. It's on AI, and everyone's going, oh no, not AI, but not the AI that not generating images from scratch, but more as photographers, how can we use AI? Like, how can we, these tools that are growing and changing every day, and I can't even write this workshop until 2 weeks beforehand because AI changes so quickly, right? But there's so much. I'm pretty open to what AI can bring to me, and I found that I've moved from using it to create stuff to move through to help me understand and edit and change stuff to helping be my assistant. So the amount, like AI has helped me with advice. It's helped me on how to communicate with people, how to tune my messaging on my website. It's helped me with getting surveys together for clients in an area that is new to me, stuff like that. So I'm doing a 4-hour hands-on session, encourage people to bring a laptop so we can get onto ChatGPT or whatever and actually try some stuff that's really relevant for you. So those are the sessions that I'm running, and come along to if you haven't been to the Society's convention, there is such a variety of classes and streams. Yes, print judging is excellent to watch, and trade show. Like it's a really cool event. So if you find yourself in Hammersmith, actually, if you're not in Hammersmith, maybe you should go. But it is excellent. This will be my 4th Society's convention, and it's Like, oh, I love it. The people, the stuff you can learn, it's great.
It's always a pleasure to see you there. Remember, if you're denying AI within photography, you're similar to the people who denied digital photography in around about 1996, 1997, and the same people who denied Photoshop in around about 2000. Remember, every industry is worried about it. It can only look backwards, and all it really is formulated software. So,
you better come to the AI thing and ask me some questions then. This will be good.
It can only look backwards. Yeah. So anyway, so where can people find you on the internet, Kris?
Best place is Images by Anderson. Instagram is kept well fed and watered. So if you go to @Images by Anderson, you will see new content every day. I only make fun of James about once a week, so that's not an everyday thing. But I try to keep that as constant as I can. Or imagesbyanderson.com. That's the best place to find me. That's easy peasy.
Thank you so much for giving us your time at such an ungodly hour on the other side of the world. The first person to join this show from another hemisphere. Remember, the next person who will be joining us will be Kelly Brown. She is from a similar part of the world as Kris, but not anymore. She's on Team UK. She's over here in the UK side, so we can actually do it at a reasonable time. Her live chat. And if you're a fan of creative photography, particularly with the cute world of newborns, don't think that I don't diversify outside of my world. We do all sorts of different things and talk to all sorts of different photographers. You can meet and talk to Kelly Brown live on my channel in 2 weeks' time. Next week, it's Dalton Castle from the world of professional wrestling sharing us his 3 favorite images. If you'd like to support Leukemia Care and support my bid to raise as much money for them this autumn as possible, visit my store, portraitofawrestler.com/store. Pick yourself up a limited edition print. Some of them are signed, some of them are quite rare, some of them I'm quite proud of. And you can have one of those for your home, and all the money will go to Leukemia Care. And if you want to learn photography, you can visit my website, nofussmust.com. We have 3 lighting workshops on that website. A 1-light workshop where I'll show you how to use 1 light in 10 different ways. A 2-light workshop where I show you how to use 2 lights in 10 different ways. And a 3-light workshop where I get to show you how to use 3 lights in 10 different ways. And the posing guide on that website, that's completely free. You can download that for free. Kris, thank you so much for joining us. If you're joining us on Catch Up, what took you so long? Maybe you're in Australia like Kris. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Do all those fun things. Be kind. And as ever, all the very best.